Greetings, adventurers, travelers, and fellow keepers of the lake. How are you all doing? Welcome. This will be the third video in our encounter design series, which you probably know by now is not really an encounter design type of series. It's more like what me and my party have been through in our most cherished campaign, and I really wanted to immortalize these moments, so here we are. I'm talking about them, and maybe you find something interesting or entertaining or useful in these videos. So without too much rambling, let's roll the intro and see what today's encounter is all about. So in this one session, my players were visiting a hideout of a very powerful wizard, and he mastered the arts of the in-betweens, which is kind of like a place in between planes that I really like. They didn't know where they came from, they just found themselves in the room. They were climbing down these spiral stairs, and at one point the stairs just ended and they were here, but they couldn't find the stairs again. This room is strange. It feels like another plane. If they can detect if they're in another plane, well, they were. They were in a pocket dimension in the in-betweens, and here they had a threat. And the first T was like these worm creatures. So the flying worm creatures would attack them. The flying worm creatures die in like one hit. I think I rolled like a D6 or even like a D8 to see how many worms attack. And they were just fighting the worms. I had the timer that was 1D4, and when this happens, a swarm of another D6 or D8 worms also spawn from the walls. So that prompted my players to go and check what is happening in the walls, and there's the treat. When you put your hand into the wall, you feel it's like soft and stuff. So you can put your hand in and you will pull out anything that you want, and it will last for like I don't know, D3 rounds, and then it will just fall apart. So what they did is they actually managed to like get tools to help them defeat the worms and go up. On the like ceiling of this room there was some light, so they climbed up, came to the light. They came from here. This is where that smaller room was, and there's this giant cube that they ended up coming out of. Of course, this disappears and they are left trapped inside the cube. Each of the players can see one of the towers. For example, player 1 Optic would see a tower here. Gaia would only see a tower here. Lortek would see a tower here. So they couldn't go to other towers, just their own. And how I did this was I took like 4 Ultimate Dungeon terrains, 4 circular things, put them one next to the other, and said you can pass from this one to this one, from this one to this one. I've labeled it so it's like an unwrapped cube basically. Again, too complicated maybe, but it worked for us. All these had like some ancient ruins that were like some were poking from the top, like gravity pulls upwards here but pulls to the side here, pulls down here. I guess there's a ton of examples of this in pop culture, like where you can just walk on the walls. So basically wherever you are, doesn't matter. Interesting things here. There was a huge worm boss that was very slow but could teleport by going into the ground and coming out on the other side. So the threat, right, was the boss plus the worms, the worm boss plus the worms. Then you had the timer, which was, as you see here, 1d4 rounds will spawn another 1d4 minus 1 worms per side. So on every side you will get those worms, and they will always home into the closest player. Now the thing is, players were very slow here because the whole thing is maybe a kilometer across, so they couldn't run fast enough and they would be caught by the worms. So what I did was I made them make a will save, and every time they succeed the will save, they stay slow. When they failed the will save for the first time, they gained this like super speed to let them like cross huge distances. Does this matter? Does this make sense? Does it add anything to the game? Well, you're kind of handicapping them in the beginning, but then when they get the super speed, it doesn't matter if this is a 1 kilometer and they have super speed, or is this like small but they walk regularly. It's just a matter of perception, playing around with their senses, and that's why it's fun. So now they needed to figure out that they should go into these buildings. So each player has to go in their own way, and of course the enemies would home in on each of them, and the boss was there to limit the entry. So whenever the boss worm would see someone is nearing what I called the ziggurat, it would teleport to them. When you're inside the ziggurat, you can see the worm. I think I have something here. Yeah, I have the worm boss as well. The worm boss apparently had mechanics to throw or swallow someone, which is always cool. And it was, of course, a random die that determines it. In this case, 1d4. You can always write dice like this in your notes. If you have a triangle, that's a d4. So, ziggurat mechanics. It says, and of course I'm seeing this after a year for the first time now with you guys, so professional YouTube behavior. So just to describe the flair, you would enter this ziggurat and it had these paintings of an ancient civilization and 2 holes, and on the paintings it was described that you put your hands into the holes and you can do some actions. So the first action would be to heal, and healing would cause damage to you as a player, so 1d8 damage to self, but you heal 1d8 plus 5 to any PC that is on your side of the cube. So you have limited jurisdiction, you can't influence the rest. Then you have lure, which lures 1d4 closest worms from each side. So it would pull worms from all the sides to your side, which might help out your friends. And there was a small chance to lure a PC. I don't think I used it. I just wrote it on the card in case I feel like that mechanic should be introduced. It was kind of too complicated already, so I didn't do it. And you had the third ability, which was Burst. And Burst basically damages everything outside your ziggurat on your side of the cube. So it deals 1d8 damage to any PCs, or 1d10 plus 3 if you're very close to the ziggurat. And I think this is also optional. I don't think I used it, but it says something along the lines of for each 2 worms you kill on this side, you get 1 damage dealt to you. And the worms would instantly die if you do the burst. A very fun and unique encounter. I really enjoyed it, and I think the players really enjoyed it. And I don't know when you would use this, honestly. Maybe you can reskin it, use it in Feywild or some Fiendish technology type of thing. But think about it, even having the small room is important in my opinion, because that small room shows the players that something strange is happening. It's like the phase 1, and then when they solve the problem of climbing up, then they're introduced to this puzzle. So there you go, another one done. This one was a bit strange, wasn't it? Anyways, don't go roaming around alone at night, because you might end up in the space between planes. Take care, and with that I bid you farewell, keepers. Subscribe, join Discord, comment, like, share.